Good morning. Morning, Kevin.
Hiya, Claire. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So, would you like to introduce yourself for anyone who hasn't come across your work before?
Of course. Yeah. Well, my work is varied. It mainly is within the crane industry, actually, an industry I've been in for nearly 20 years now.
Uh-huh.
And I've, basically, I started off in there after being in the army for a few years. Became a crane operator, spent 10 years as a crane operator, and then self-funded to become a trainer in 2010.
Uh-huh.
Started delivering training. Then I developed a training centre for a company. And I was actually planning on moving to Vancouver
Uh-huh.
in 2014. And that's another story, but very close to happening, but it didn't happen at the last minute. So I decided instead to start a business. And I had a business for a few years in providing training and consulting to organizations on carrying out the lifting operations.
Mhm.
And then I was in a business partnership for a while as well. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. That ended last year. And that brought me to the job I'm in now. So I now work for a national company and I help them with improving culture, competence, communication within
Right.
the organization, which is really good, very fulfilling role. Very challenging again because I'm back within a company, whereas before, when I was running my own business, much quicker and more dynamic to make
Yeah.
decisions and that kind of thing. So that's my kind of professional side. Along the way, I've done a lot of personal development. I came out of a 20-year relationship in 2017,
Mhm.
and prior to that, there were things that kind of made me recognise that actually it would be helpful to do a lot of work on myself. So I
Yes.
started to do that, and I've since become an NLP practitioner. I've done some coaching for others as well as received a lot of coaching myself for various things, certainly for the business side of things. And I've also learned that from a lot of my personal experiences and things that I've done and achieved in life, I've got a lot of value to add as well. I've realised I'm quite a resilient chap. I'm quite driven when I've got my mind set to things. And there's certainly been people along the way that have helped with their situation, helped them become a little bit more driven, focused, motivated in what they want to achieve too. So that's where I kind of add value to people. I may have said NLP practitioner as well, neuro linguistic programming. So that really helps on the communication side of things as well.
Yeah.
On the hobbies side, I've been into taekwondo. I've spent a lot of time on the mountains, love music. So there we go. I think that's a fairly reasonable overview.
And
So,
when you say that you're into taekwondo, you've actually got a black belt and are a twice over world champion.
yes, yes. Yeah. So I only started taekwondo back in 2014. Uh,
Wow.
I decided I want to get myself some hobbies and get back in shape. I felt after being a paratrooper as a young man when I was in my early 20s, of course, I was very fit then.
Mhm.
But of course, I'd kind of let that go a bit over the years and not really maintained it to a particularly great standard. And I decided it was time to get myself back into shape and take up a hobby. So martial arts had always interested me, and I decided to take up taekwondo.
Mhm.
So it was a few months in, I then started competing pretty much as soon as I could do. Once you've done one of the gradings and start moving yourself up the ladder, you can then begin competing. And I found I was pretty good at that. I lost my first competition actually, but then I kind of thought, right, so what's the situation here? Is it that actually I'm not really good at this? Or is it I just need to kind of understand a bit more on what I need to do to win? And one of the huge takeaways, there was a couple of huge takeaways for me, really. One was that I was focusing, and this is something that people can perhaps apply to different things in life. I was actually focusing more on not losing points to my
Yeah.
opponent than I was on winning points
Yeah.
against them. So I really, from that, I thought, right, what I need to do is work on just being more aggressive, focusing on my thing, attacking more rather than kind of being a bit worried about losing points. And then from there, I started winning. I trained and trained and trained. And this is another thing that I took away from it as well. When you're starting out in something, when you're new to something, some people put a lot of expectations on themselves or put a lot of pressure on themselves. But you can only be at the level you're at. If you're comparing yourself to others, perhaps who are further ahead, it can be unhelpful. It can be good to look at them and go, what can I learn from them to improve? But I do say this, and again, you can apply this to other things, but I say to a lot of yellow belts, green belts now, I say, this is the time that you get really good at the basics. Work on the basics and get good at them and set yourself a good foundation. Because if you think that you're going to get good at the level where everybody else has already got good, then you're kind of letting yourself go behind. Get good, get the foundation in place, and it's much easier to build on that later. So that was one thing I learned. I just done kicks over and over again. I was making my kicks faster, higher, and all this stuff when I was at lower grades, and that carried on really well with me. So during the time as a colour belt, there were 2 world championships that I entered, and I won gold at both of those. One of those was really profound, not just because of Taekwondo, but because of the other things that were going on in my life. And then I achieved my black belt. I became a black belt in 2018, October 2018. And then I'd done what you're not supposed to do. And I got into the black belt division, and I was already in my 40s, so I already kind of qualified for the veterans group, but I stayed in the men's group. So I was up against some guys who were like 20 years younger in some cases, And I won my first competition as a black belt, and I won against a guy who's in the English national squad as well. And it was like, that's not really supposed to happen. So... but I did get a humbling at the next competition as well, and then that made me realise, right, so there is a lot of work to do here. But yeah, that's the situation with Taekwondo.
And so much of your what you've expressed about what you learned in Taekwondo is so useful in life. Like, if you want to do something new, you've got to start at the bottom. And like, start now, get perfect later, and learn and learn and learn and learn, and follow people you admire, and drop the attitude of lack, and have an attitude of winning. And look at how do the winners win? What are their strategies? So applicable to life.
Definitely, absolutely. And it can be so tricky to not compare yourself. If you're competitive or you've got a strong desire to achieve something, I think the real strength of desire, where that's really true, that comes through when you're willing to carry on, even if it appears as though you're not making any progress.
Yes.
Rather than, oh, it's got to be making progress and it's got to happen quickly.
Yeah.
The real desire comes from, what are the reasons? What is it you're doing it for? Is it to grow as a person, or is it to get something that makes you look good? And let's not kind of vilify that. It's all right to have things that you feel is just a bit of a boost to your confidence and whatever. But if you're going to be in it for the long run, and your desire to achieve in that is true, then you'll be willing to play the long game.
Yeah, and everyone I follow, and I follow a lot of successful people on social media, and everyone talks about this, not giving up. Like, at the time when you feel like you're getting nowhere, carrying on through that time, those are the people who succeed. The people who don't succeed are the people who think, oh, I'm not getting anywhere, I'm going to give up on this and do something else.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's noticing what you're doing, who wants to contribute, who's going to get involved, what paths what you're doing is going to take you down, unless you carry on doing it.
Yeah, Absolutely, absolutely. And it could be tricky to like look in the rear view mirror sometimes and
Yeah,
just actually consider where you've come from, and even
yeah,
just ask people that you trust, just ask them, what do you think I do well? What do
yeah,
you think I could do with improving in? And if you've got some really good, honest people who can be objective, they're not just coming from their frame of reference, because there's lots of people that would give you suggestions based on their preferences
yeah,
rather than on their objective observations,
yeah,
So if you've got people that you trust who can give you objective observations, it can be painful at times because you might think that you're doing all right in something,
yeah,
but actually maybe you're way off the mark and need to
yeah,
improve hugely.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So we met at Tony Robbins' event on Fire Team, sweeping the car park, I think.
Yeah.
Sweeping out the car park before the fireworks so that there weren't bits of like glass and metal for people to walk on when they
Mm-hmm.
have their shoes off. So when did you discover these sort of events, and why did you start crewing?
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, indeed, we did. We were making sure that nobody was going to get any grit or glass in their feet. And that was a really interesting one. So just to like tell a story about that, you remember that it's supposed to be that for the car park. So this is the car park at the London XL out the back. Great big car park. Got a
Massive.
huge area that we've got to lay down these lanes for people to walk across hot coals. Just for anybody who isn't familiar, the Tony Robbins, UPW, Unleash the Power Within events. The end of day one, you walk across hot coals, and there's a bit of a metaphor. So not going into that hugely at the moment, but the car park is a large area, so to sweep it is going to take time. It's going to take time and a bit of elbow grease, right? So, of course, it's preferable and more efficient that you get a road sweeper in. So the
Yeah.
day before, we got sort of briefed, yeah, the road sweeper's coming in the morning. And then we turned up that morning and we got our start of the day briefing. And our fire team captain said to us, well, the bad news is the road sweeper hasn't turned up.
Yes.
And there were cheers. It was just like, woohoo! And I just thought, this is the spirit of this group of people.
Yeah.
Because although it's going to take time and work, it's such a bonding experience when you're all there singing songs, sweeping in unison to clear the car park up. So I think, can't remember if we'd done the whole car park or if the sweeper came and managed to finish off. I think the sweeper came after the event and we swept the whole car park by hand.
Yeah, we swept the whole car park by hand. So we had these large brooms, and we had the brooms end to end.
Yeah.
In a long line, and we would sweep, 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 and then carry on doing that whilst singing.
Yeah.
To the end, and then one person would move along, so everything would get swept multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a really good system, and we had such a laugh. And it would have been, it could have been a really depressing, awful job if it hadn't been for you cheering us on and making up hilarious songs.
Yeah, well, you got to do that, haven't you? But it just shows the caliber of people as well, doesn't it, Claire?
Yeah.
People...
And I thought your military background came out in your like organisation and getting people enthusiastic and involved, and
Well, it's one of those. It has to be done. So, like, just make the best of the situation.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? And I think when you got something that's kind of undesirable, if you got a bit of an undesirable task, I just sort of say, just take the brain out. Just take the brain out. Don't overthink it. Just it's not going to require much thought, so don't use much thought. Just crack on and get through it. And that's the same when we're cleaning up and chucking all the turf in the skips afterwards. It's just like another barrow, another barrow, another barrow. Right, stuff it. I'll when I'm done chucking all this turf in the skip, brain out, crack on. Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, to answer your initial question there about how I got into all that. So I've always been curious. I've been curious since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time, I would say, with inner conflict, which I kind of put down to not living true to my values, true to who I am. I learned at a very young age to put a mask on, to try to, because when I was myself, when I was younger, and when I was curious, and when I was a bit rebellious and challenged people a little bit, clearly that didn't go down particularly well at school. Clearly it didn't go down particularly well in the likes of army cadets, with parents, stuff like that. So I learned, right, so I need to put on a mask in some situations. What do I need to be in this situation? But it never sat comfortable with me, and I didn't have the self-awareness at the time to understand why it didn't sit comfortable. I just knew, oh yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, but I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't satisfied with that. So as I got older, I started asking myself more questions and started to want to get to understand why perhaps I wasn't forming meaningful relationships with people. Why as much as I thought I was doing the best thing for my family, why I wasn't really having that relationship that I desired with my ex and with my children. So all these questions, they just, I suppose, they help you arrive at exploring things that are going to help you discover, I suppose, what's going to improve your life and the way that you connect with people.
Yes.
That was the big drive to have more meaningful relationships in my life. And I started reading books, and certainly with business as well. I thought, how do I become a better leader? What about when I have employees? How do I ensure that I keep them motivated and they're happy at work and things like that? So, I started considering that. And the first personal development book, really, one that's clearly personal development, was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and learned so much about how to relate to people in a better way. Started practicing that. And the thing for me, Claire, is it's all good reading all this stuff. I've limited what I'm reading in terms of personal development now, because there's only so many concepts that you can take in and actually live. It's important that you, I believe, to just take a couple of things that work there and then. Some of them may sit in the background and come back out later, but just take concepts that work for you right now. And some of those things, like criticism being futile, and avoid telling people that they're wrong. These kind of things were huge in improving the way that I was communicating with people and helping them to be more open and engaging better. So then that went on to, oh man, I want to read more books like this. So then 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was recommended to me by a good friend. And that was just hugely life-changing. And it was having these kind of conversations with different people, you start hearing about different things. So somebody told me about Tony Robbins. He says, oh, have you heard of Tony Robbins? I was like, nah. He says, oh, this guy's amazing. You should look at some of his stuff. So I looked at some of his stuff, and me being me, once I get involved with something, Claire, I'm just like, stay out of the way, because this is what I'm doing, And so I wanted to do the best that I could with developing myself and going to UP. As soon as I saw Tony Robbins, I was like, oh, he's having an event in London in 3 months' time. Right, that's it, I'm in. So I bought the ticket, went along with some other people I knew as well. And it was such a powerful experience, going to UPW. And one thing when I'm talking, and of course I was very fortunate to speak at Yes Group last year as well in London. And one thing that I say, and with the speaking style, it's always nice to perhaps when you're speaking, put something out there that you got to prick people's curiosity.
Yes.
Whether you kind of make them go, oh, I'm not keen on that. So then go, I need to know more here to understand where he's coming from. So I kind of often say, one of the big problems with personal development, or the mistakes people make, I believe, with personal development, and when you're speaking, as soon as you kind of say something like that, people are like, oh, I love personal development. Hold on, what's this all about? So I tend to say that many people will go to the seminar, or they'll watch the video, or they'll read the book, and they want to become that person doing the seminar or the video or writing the book. And the truth of the matter is, the more you try to be like someone else,
Yeah.
the less you are of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very powerful thing. So it's like taking, right, I love what this person does. I love the way they conduct themselves. But what can I learn from them that's helpful to me right now?
Yes.
You know, I think that's a really important thing. So that's what there were things like that at UPW I took away, implemented, and then I thought there were a couple of people, and you may know them. Nikki Warnes is one of them, who crews regularly, and there were a couple of people on the crew that I saw their faces daily.
Yeah.
There was one who was doing the state inducing, which is high-fiving and all this stuff, and one in usher getting people to their seats.
Yeah.
But I just love that actually these people are making my event and other people's event better.
Yes.
You know, they're making it, just even walking in and getting to the seats is a pleasure. They've got a smile on their face.
Yes.
They really love helping out. And I thought, next year, that's what I want to do. I want to make other people's event better. And that's how we got into crewing.
Yeah, same. That really struck me when I first went to UPW. All those people volunteering their time just to help other people enjoy the experience more. Just such a special thing. And then to be actually part of that, to give people a fantastic, memorable experience, which is going to really take them forward in their lives. It's such an honor to be in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I like that about taking one concept, because Howie said that to me at the end of crewing last year. Just take away just one thing. So maybe getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, he said. Take that away for the year until we meet again. Well, what a year it is for that. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So recently I've noticed that you've got into speaking and you've started going to Toastmasters. And then you've been offered this Tedx talk. You've become a Tedx speaker.
Yes. Well, not yet, because of course I've not done it yet. But yeah.
Wouldn't you? It would have been in April, wouldn't it?
It would have been, yes.
Yeah, I bought a ticket for it, Malvern.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that whenever that comes around, that'll be fantastic. Absolutely over the moon about being able to be part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been a trainer since 2010. So actually talking to people and imparting knowledge, getting information across. What I really love about training is when perhaps somebody is struggling to understand something. Yeah. A gift of a good trainer is, one, the ability to spot that, because people won't always be like open and consciously willing to demonstrate or raise their concerns if they're not sure of things, because sometimes they feel perhaps ashamed. But being able to spot that and read people's facial expressions, their body language and stuff like that. So one, being able to actually spot if someone's not sure of something. And then secondly, being able to perhaps put things across in a different way that helps them understand it. Use another metaphor, come up with a different metaphor, or ask them a question that helps them understand it more. So I love that. But a couple of people had said to me, "Oh, why are you not coaching, Kev? You know, and why are you not speaking, doing more speaking? You've got this way about you. You know, you've got a bit of a presence about you. You've got like, loads of stuff to share. You like really inspire and encourage people to do things better." And you know, this was like going back, start of 2019, the beginning of the last year. I took a load of people up Snowdon, and there was like one or two who you would say they won't make it up, but they got up. And of course, the main reason is because they had the will and the ability within themselves to do that. But it was, sometimes it took a little bit of encouraging, sometimes a little bit of frank words. Got there, and they were like, "But you're good at this stuff." So I then thought, so I'm a kind of playing small, and I'm just kind of steering away from this speaking thing. I thought, yeah, I could speak, but I'm not really sure whether I've got much to share. I'm not really sure whether people would be willing to listen. So I thought, right, I'm going to go to Toastmasters and just get a little bit more comfortable or skillful in speaking.
Yes.
And so I started Toastmasters when I moved to Worcester, away from the London area, in April last year, just around UPW time last year. I come back from UPW, and my first meeting was immediately after it. And I've done a table topic, which is just the impromptu 1 to 2 minute thing on a given subject. And they'd asked about, I think it was, what type of party would you hold? And I said something about, I brought in the firewalk thing and said that's what I've just been doing, and I won best table topic for it. I was like, wow, that's amazing, you know. And then I started constructing speeches, and I've got a very good mentor within Toastmasters as well, my good friend Steve, and he's pointed out several things. The main feedback I've had is like vocal variation. Because before I was just putting information across. It was just kind of, yeah, this is what you must do, blah, 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 blah. And whereas now I use pauses to much greater effect, vary my vocals. So I'll use my presence, but sometimes I'll just bring it down and make it real gentle to perhaps just draw people in a little bit. You know, and so Toastmasters has really helped with that, building engagement, building rapport with an audience. And then, I went and entered YesX, which is Yes Group's little competition for speakers.
Yeah.
And I was the joint winner of that with a fantastic lady called Claire as well. So that was amazing. And of course, I got to speak at Yes Group in London as a result. And it's just gone on from there. So I've done a few other speaking things, but I've not actively pursued that because I do personally feel that speaking. Okay, I've done a bit of after dinner as well. I've done some after dinner speaking about my military career and things like that. But I do feel that speaking is either that you are a significant person to people in that context that just want to hear what you've got to say, or you're doing it essentially in promotion of a business or in promotion of something. So I'd come out of business. So for me, the speaking is a bit of, when that comes along, if the audience feel that I've got value to share, happy to speak and keep that ticking over, because you know what, when there'll come a time in the future where that skill of being able to stand up and speak and engage an audience will really come back to the fore. And that really helps with my current job as well, actually, you know, a bit of that within my current job. But I love it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy engaging with audience. I enjoy the buzz. There's something amazing about when you're standing looking out to the people and there is the sense that you have the room. That it's just such a beautiful thing. You have a connection with the audience, and you can see that they are with you in this experience, and because they're there to get what they want out of it, right? So they're in that point. It's not about you, it's about what you're sharing and how you connect. So they are there and they are with you on waiting for what the next thing is, or just enjoying the flow of the things they're getting from it. And that's such a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah, I recently did a talk at a businesswomen's organisation in Cheltenham, and I watched the TED Talks on how to give a talk, actually, and like you were saying, ways of slowing down your speech and stepping forward and putting your arms out. And I found it really interesting that there's a whole methodology around speaking.
Yes.
Really interesting. So your TEDx talk, your upcoming TEDx talk, which was has been postponed because of the pandemic,
It
is about challenging identity.
is, indeed.
And really, everything that you do is about challenging identity, because clearly you started off as a crane driver or started off in the military, then became a trainer, then have done all this personal development work, doing speaking, doing a little bit of coaching, inspiring people. So really, everything you do is about challenging your identity. But for people who aren't familiar with that term, what do you mean?
Well, who do you think you are as an individual? You know, that's a powerful question. One of the real telling points is, think about when you meet somebody, and of course this can be in different contexts, but let's say a networking event, or you're at a party, or even on the dating scene.
Yeah.
One of the first questions that comes up, and I hate to say it, well, actually I don't, because it's what I feel. It's a bit of a lame one. It's an easy one, but it's there. What's one of the first questions that comes up within conversations when you meet somebody? And I'm sure the people watching this will be coming into their mind now, that what do you do?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that people feel identifies them or defines them. Now, for me, there are some underlying meanings to that question, depending on the context. It could mean, where are you in the social hierarchy? And do I look up to you? Do I look down to you?
Yeah.
For me, it's a gauge of how useful are you going to be to me?
Yeah.
Are you worth anything to me? So there's this kind of egoic hierarchy going on, and I've read in books about, I think it's Eckhart Tolle talks about this egoic hierarchy, where it feels more comfortable to kind of consider almost this step ladder, if you like, of, we put people up or we put people down there. And John Martini talks about that kind of thing as well. Because it's easier. It's easier to think, are they on side? Are they against me? Are they above me? Are they below me? Whatever the context is. So that what do you do question, it's a very identity-based question. Whereas I don't really think that your career identifies you at all. Of course it says something about you. There's no question. But just because that you are not career-driven, just because you are not financially driven, just because you might use your work just to simply get the money, enough money that you need to do the things that you want to do in life, that doesn't make you any less of a person. You know, so that's one thing. But there's all sorts of different identities. If you even think about, in terms of, and you may well relate to this, if you think about role-based identities, when you're a parent, you know, when you're a mother, when you're a father, for me, one of my identities was I was a provider. So that came above all else, that I had to get money in. And my family, in a way, reinforced that. So that just made me think that's what I have to do. It's only on reflection that I go, actually, it would have been a damn lot more helpful, as much as I felt I was doing the right thing at the time, and that's okay, so I'm cool with that. But it would have been much better if I was there and present for the children, so they could be positively influenced by the way I went about things and by the time we spent together, rather than me going and I need to earn more money, I need to make sure I'm providing. So, and then I think the one for women that seems to be quite common, having spoken to a lot of women about the situation and heard a lot of this, is when you have a woman who becomes a mother and a wife. So it's a very consuming sort of role. And sometimes I think that identity takes over, and then you get women who I think come to realize that, and then they feel a little bit lost, that they've become like James's mum and Dave's wife, rather than Helen or whatever the woman's name is, you know? And then all of a sudden it's like, who am I? Well, none of these identities are who we are. They're just part of how we like manifest our life, you know, and how we go about things. They are our choices. They're the choices we make. And sometimes if that's not in alignment with who you really are, and which is much deeper than what we think we are or how other people tell us we are, then you're going to be in conflict. Yeah. And also, another thing, really powerful thing about challenging that is that if you look at this situation in terms of the lockdown, this has been a widespread, almost a global challenge of identity. Absolutely. And it's challenged me, but I've had bigger ones previously, so fortunately I've come into that with the attitude that I've gained from being challenged and challenging myself in other ways and cope with it pretty well. But for many people, you know, a lot of what they thought they were, it's revealing to them that they're not that. Yes. When this situation where you're stuck indoors and you're not able to do the things that you thought defined you, you know, and or that you thought you needed to have in life.
Yeah.
So if you look at some of the extreme examples in life, where identity being removed can be so horrendous and cause huge voids. If you think of, say, a professional rugby player, who's in a car accident and now they lose the use of their leg. So yeah. That huge identity, I'm a professional rugby player, has gone.
Yeah. Yes.
They've not gone. They might think they have because it's such a drastic shift. Yes. They've not gone. Their identity has. Yeah. And if you think of the millionaire who loses everything overnight in a bad deal or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a millionaire. I have this, I have that. And the way they present themselves, it's all gone. Yeah. They're not gone, just the identity. And the more you can separate that identity from who you really are, and the more you're willing to challenge that or adapt it and be fluid, so you flow over the rock or around it rather than smashing into it, I think life can become a little bit more enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely. And I really experienced that for myself at the beginning of lockdown, because my identity was very much tied up in my business, the activities that I do outside my business, like physical activities like aerial training, trapeze, rope, silk. I can't do that at home. My business, like everyone, I was forced to close temporarily. And I really felt, on one particular day, I really felt like I was in a void. And I didn't know how to use the tools that I've got to get out of that void and feel like I normally feel. And what I've learned is that the way that I felt was determined by the activities that I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I had to find new activities which make me feel okay and make me feel inspired, which are nothing to do with the things that I used to do before. And that for every single human being on the planet, apart from those who are still working, who are in the crucial jobs of teachers and healthcare staff and supermarket workers and delivery drivers, for all of the rest of us, that has been huge, I think.
Definitely, yeah. So if you think about the lesson that you got from that, if you could sum up then from your experiences there, what would you say life is about?
I think life is about finding meaning and finding ways to feel connected.
Okay. And when you say feel connected, what do you mean by that?
So, for instance, going outside, being in nature, breathing in the air, moving in a way that makes me feel connected with my body, mm-hmm. or being outside and feeling connected to nature, the universe. Some people call it God or the goddess. So it's like connecting with ourselves and connecting with something higher.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like what you were saying was beautiful about getting used to the different situation and looking for other things. For me, I've said for some time now, I think that life is about experiences and feelings. I think that's it. What experiences bring you the feelings that you want to have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And sometimes that can be in the simplest of things. And it'll differ from person to person. Of course, it's very difficult, and this is where the identity shift comes. It's very difficult to just go straight from something which is like hugely exhilarating situations down to just coping with nothing. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have had to deal with that. But hopefully the period of lockdown has been sufficient. They're starting to get comfortable with that now. Like you say, you know, where they've started becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. You know, fuck it. You're in the void. What's around you? What's good about the void? Even if actually this feeling like shit wasn't nearly as bad as what I thought it was going to be. I can cope with this stuff, and guess what? I'm going to deal with it again. Hey ho, next time I'm just going to go, I feel like shit today. So what? Tomorrow will be different.
Absolutely. And you're right, it is about experiences and feelings. And for me, it's about what experiences give me the feelings that I want to be in. So I don't want to feel really shit. So what experiences, and actually I have found that doing washing it makes me feel good.
How do you
You know, tidying up my flat makes me feel good.
Yeah, and what is it about it? Is it the in the moment when you're actually doing it, or is it the results afterwards?
Yeah, and I think it's both.
Right.
I think it's both, but I think that in the moment doing it is knowing that there's going to be a result. And it's that, because missing that, like when I'm running my business, I've always got goals and I'm always thinking about new projects and new collaborations and new things to do. Let's do this, let's do that, let's get this in, let's get that product in, let's do this pop-up, let's advertise like this, and then to go from that to being at home alone in a small space, it's like finding small tasks that give me a sense of, you know, Tony Robbins talks about that you're not living unless you're growing. It's like that sense of going forward.
But there's so much personal growth that comes from even just, like, for me, there was a lot of, so I was really busy all over the country with my job, presenting, meeting new people, having conversations. It was all very dynamic and all this stuff. And then boom, lockdown.
Yeah.
So I had to start becoming better again at the being still and just cracking on with the tasks that I had right there in front of me, rather than newness and people and presenting and all traveling and all these things. So, like, if we think about the simple stuff where we can find personal growth within the stuff that, when you're looking materially or tangibly, I like to say the intangible forces are more powerful than the tangible, even if we're living on the tangible plane of what we see and the results that we get. So even if it's not tangibly bigger, maybe that personal growth is coming by just enjoying and learning more from those simple things. So, like, if you're talking about washing the dishes or cleaning up, let's say the washing the dishes, what about if you remove the reward of the achievement of having them done? Would it still feel good? Would you still enjoy it just doing the dishes?
Yeah.
You know? Is that a thing in itself of just the presence? Washing the dishes.
Yeah, just being present. And that the biggest challenge for me has been to be in stillness, because, you know, before I would meditate for 20 minutes and the other 24 hours, 23 hours and 40 minutes, I would be like on the go. So to actually be still, whew, that's been the biggest challenge. But now I've got quite into it.
It's a really interesting one, the whole meditation thing as well, isn't it, Claire? I mean, there's lots of people who are into meditation and personal development, but I shared something recently, and it was from a concept from a guy called Naval Ravikant, who was on the Joe Rogan podcast some months ago. I heard him talking about meditation. He says a lot of people aren't meditating. They're just kind of trying to block stuff out, you know?
Yes.
People will go, oh yeah, I can't meditate because like there's too much stuff comes into my head.
Yeah.
Oh, no worries. Well, that clearly there's a message there. Like,
Yeah.
you need to deal with that stuff. But he said it's like an email inbox. You've got all these emails stacked up over 20, 30, 40 plus years. And unless you sit and allow those emails to come up and you process them, you don't even need to solve them. You just allow them to come up. You know, once you start doing that, but people are like, oh, I don't really want to read this one. Oh, I'm not really comfortable with that thought. I'm not really comfortable with that part about myself that I'm not really willing to explore. You got to be able to go to the places. What if I am? What if this? What if, oh, that I did think that way? And get comfortable with those. And as he says, process the emails. And once you've processed them to the point that you're just metaphorically looking at yesterday's emails, then you start to meditate.
Yes. And actually, I don't think my kids would mind me saying this. My kids have been doing meditation, and one of them said to me, I just get really angry when I'm meditating because my head's just full of thoughts. And I told him, and I have said this before many times, that I saw the Dalai Lama speaking at Glastonbury Festival, and he said, I get up in the morning and I meditate for 5 hours for world peace. That's my job. So I meditate for 5 hours every morning. And at some point during those 5 hours, I experience a moment of peace. And when I heard him say that, I thought, yeah, it's just the human condition. There's no point trying to fight those thoughts. Those thoughts are there. Acknowledge them, welcome them in, and let them just pass through as guests. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even if you just go, yeah, so what if I did think that about that person? Or so what if I did think this? I accept all those parts of me as well. Yeah. Because you know what? Whether I try and deny them or pretend they're not there, they're there. So if I just accept all those parts of me, and guess what? The real beauty is that I've learned, and it's a constant ongoing thing, that when you learn to accept yourself, guess what? You learn to accept much better too other people and the circumstances around you. When you accept the thing that you have most control over, which is you, and many people won't accept themselves. I mean, I've worked on that hugely. Guess what? You can start to accept a lot better the things that are outside your control as well.
Absolutely. And that self-compassion, like, if there was one thing that would be taught in school, self-compassion and being still, then the world would be so different, because everyone would have so much more compassion and tolerance for others. Mm. And I have found during lockdown that, you know, I've made a real effort to make my social media really positive and not to be bitching, but you know, it's really easy to get caught up in negativity when there isn't much going on by way of a distraction around.
But to have positivity, don't you have to have some negativity?
Yeah, otherwise there's no balance.
Yeah, and like when I see people now, I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical of the people who, and I've been there as well, who are very much caught up in and love and love and love, and it's great, it's wonderful, you know. But when it's all that, it's like, nah, you got shit going on that you just ain't letting us see. That's all.
That's so true. It's so true, and I have done that myself. Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's easy to put out, like, but of course I understand that because I've been through that phase myself. I've been through that phase of I can see who I want to become.
Yes.
I almost portray that, and like the things that I learn, you know, with being a trainer, I understand hugely about, you know, retention of knowledge. And if somebody tells you something, you're going to retain very, very small amount of that. When you start doing it, it becomes higher. But when you start teaching people, then your retention of knowledge is massive. So because you need to understand it to a deeper level to be able to put it across to others. So that's been helpful for me in times where I'm putting posts up about things I've learned. But I've also then got to the point, I've gone through that phase and I've thought, right, so if I'm going to put up a post about that, I got to be doing it. I got to be making sure that I'm sharing about my actual empirical learning through experience and experimentation myself, rather than just something I've heard and now I'm regurgitating.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to what you were saying about values, that's been a common theme in these conversations. How when we are in conflict with ourselves, it's because we're behaving in ways which are against our own values. But until we know what our own values are, then which requires a lot of going within and being, and a lot of self-honesty, then we will constantly be behaving in ways which go against our values and constantly being in self-conflict. And that's a real common theme.
Do you feel that values are a constant, Claire?
No, and I think we have to constantly re-look at our values and see where we are, because life is always changing, and what I value today, I might value less tomorrow. Like in my values before lockdown would have been things that seem frivolous now, actually, because life is so very much more basic at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think I like John DeMartini's concept on it, that the voids we have tend to become our highest values. So if you're missing out on something in life, or there's something that you haven't got much of, and you kind of crave that, you feel that you need more of it, that goes higher and higher up your values. That love is a big one, isn't it? Connection. When you don't feel you've had connection, or if you don't, this is why, like within the Tony Robbins thing, there's these human needs. And you know, so many people, they like to project out there that, oh yeah, my needs are growth and contribution. My needs are like connection and growth. Brilliant. Right. Why is it that actually you're looking for like validation and all this response here? Because people don't say, you know what? One of my highest values is significance and recognition, because they think it sounds really bad. You know what? If you've gone through life and you've not been rewarded or approved of for some of the hard work and the things you've achieved, and you feel that you've been ignored, you've been silenced and all this, damn right you're going to have a need for significance. Damn right you're going to want to be recognized, and that's okay as well, because you know, when you actually get to a point where you can fill that and top that little kind of bucket up, if you like, then maybe it won't be your highest need, and you'll kind of settle down. It won't be your highest value, and you'll look for something else. So yeah, there may be some constant values, like the way that you want to conduct yourself, or what you think is meaningful in terms of trust and respect. But many people will say that, oh yeah, one of my highest values is honesty, but then they'll kind of be living their life in a way that's not true to who they really are. Is it really, or is there something else that's actually a higher value than that, you know?
Yeah, and you know, Tony Robbins talks about this need for certainty. Like one of the six human needs is certainty. And of course, that was like largely overnight taken away this year. So it's no wonder that people are struggling. And in a way, it is finding certainty in doing the washing up, talking to friends, going for a walk, in very different ways from the certainty we had before. Like my certainty was, you know, my monthly paycheck was part of my certainty before. And, you know, for everyone, well, it's there at the moment, but I can't just depend on that. There has to be more to life, actually.
Well, actually, you don't need to depend on anything, do you?
Well, no, and this is a great time for learning not to. Actually, it's a great time for learning not to. It has been a bit like being in free fall, I think, some of the time for me.
And do you feel that you've benefited from that in terms of being in that free fall? You know, what have you
I
learned?
feel I've grown enormously through lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my worst fear was being alone in my flat. That was my worst fear. Like, I went out for dinner with my friends the Saturday before lockdown, and that was all I was worried about, being on my own. And I have filled that time up completely,
Yeah.
you know, with things that we
Oh,
feel.
nobody's coming in here.
Actually, I have people in all the time on Zoom. I'm
Yeah.
teaching yoga. I've got a living room full of people learning yoga at 7 every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I think, yeah, that's wonderful. It's again, it's being able to sit, like you say, finding the beauty in the simple things, and
Yes.
that's the essence of it. There's so many people that they're just uncomfortable with being
Yeah.
on their own, and the things, the voices in their head, the
Yes.
voices come from somewhere. They come from whether it's some experience or something somebody's said. But
Yeah.
actually, they're just going to keep screaming until you listen.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're going to be there. So why not listen to them and go, okay, let's hear your little argument out here. Let's hear your point. What have you got to say? And then, oh, it might be about this. You start understanding what is that about? It's
Yeah.
about doubt or an insecurity about self, and you go, yeah, I'm good with that. You know, I really appreciate you shouting and screaming, and let us know if you got any more, because let's talk about this, you know, and you can have conversations with self when
Yeah.
you're on your own. I do that a lot on the mountains, you know, just that is my meditation. Being on a mountain, nothing else matters at that moment, particularly if the weather's really crap or it's a steep slope that I'm working up or I'm scrambling up a rock face, whatever it is, that is my time where I'll get present, but I'll also process things. And oh, I
Yeah.
had this thought the other day. What does that mean? And I feel as though I'm like paying my attention to this and that, or this person and that person. What's really meaningful to me? What's true to me? Because let's not do things that are not true to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is all about being true to ourselves. And I think it's it's a really magical time for realizing that whatever else is going on in the world, that we can be true to ourselves, live within our own values,
Mm,
uh, live without a lot of our external factors temporarily, and we can still find ways to contribute.
definitely.
Yeah, and find ways to feel significant, and that's okay.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
We all like to be recognised.
yeah, yeah,
Or indeed, if you don't, is it because you've got a fear of that and you're worried what people will think, you know? So challenge that one as well. If you're like, oh no, I just want to hide and don't want to be seen, then why? You know, what's
yeah,
the reason? What is it? What would be helpful, or in what ways would it be helpful to start being more seen?
yes,
How would that help you live a more fulfilling life? Even just do something that's going to put yourself out there and challenge it. I think of it as, you know, often we're living in a very binary way. We're
yeah,
at one end or the other, we're one thing or the other, but actually there's a beautiful continuum in between those 2 points all the time. And if you can go, right, you're here, but actually, if we start practicing being here, then the chances are that's going to take us somewhere on that continuum,
yeah,
allow us to move like an abacus, like moving the bead on an abacus
yeah,
to where the most suitable point is at the time.
yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. So, can we put the books that you've talked about in the comments? Do you think? Because I think a lot of people have got time on their hands and would be interested in reading these books, like the seven,
Of highly effective people, yeah.
yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, there's definitely 3 prominent ones I mentioned there. I read lots of other stuff as well now, by the way. I read lots of stuff, you know, more philosophy, things that challenge the whole personal development world. I loved Dan Brown's book Happy, which completely tears The Secret to bits and the whole personal development world. love it because it gives a different perspective. Sarah Pascoe, the comedian, has done a couple of wonderful books on really talking about her whole insecurities and fear of men, and men being uber masculine, and men just being all about sex and stuff like this. Wonderful, gives a great insight. So things like that. But yeah, and mountain books. I find some of the books, if you're into hobbies,
yeah,
the people who have done really well, or pastimes, or your career, whatever it is, you know, people who have done really well in them, there's personal development in there because they'll be sharing things that have been powerful. And like on my Facebook, on the bio, I've just got a quote by Ed Viesters, who's done all of the 14 8,000 meter summits in the world. And, you know, his quote is, getting to the top is optional, getting down is mandatory, you know? So whatever you pursue, sometimes it's better to go, I'm not going to make it safely. I'm coming back, because getting back and being able to function and carry on with my life is more important than like jeopardizing that by just trying to achieve something for the sake of pride or ego.
Yeah,
that's quite powerful. But yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I would recommend the audiobook because it's narrated by Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey. Brilliant. I find that often audiobooks, depends on what works for people, but it kind of takes away some of that interpretation that you have to do if you've got the person reading it in there, especially if it's the author. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. How to Win Friends and Influence People is amazing. And the 2 big Eckhart Tolle books, so The Power of Now and A New Earth, both fantastic books. Again, I just go, what works for me? Some of the stuff, if you ask me about it, I'd be like, I can't really remember that. You know what? Because I didn't find it useful at the time, you know? So, yeah, there's some books.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time, Kevin.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm looking forward to your TEDx talk in Malvern, and I will be there.
Good.
I'm sure I'll get an email from the ticket guys to tell me when it's going to be.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Good luck with it.
Thank you. Thank you
so much for your time. Have a great day.
And you, Claire. Yeah, lovely to chat. And enjoy
catch up
and stuff for whatever nice presents bringing stuff you're going to do today.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, Kevin.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.